Right. Hello, everybody. How you doing today? It's a new day. It's a fresh day. I hope you're up, shaking, and baking. Welcome to the Powerful Podcast. Today, out of that experience, so I saw Dr. Daniel's content on Instagram. I really liked what I was seeing. Then I messaged him. I said I would like to have a conversation with you. I'm very curious. So I like to learn how people became successful. But I realized that part of that conversation, it can also help another person. Because I believe that what you make happen for somebody else, God will make happen for you. I mean, this podcast is free.
Yeah,
But I believe that Dr. Daniel may share one or two things that may just change the narrative for you, that may just, change the story, for somebody out there. And he's Nigerian. He went to Uniben, one school that I wanted to go in when I was in. I couldn't get into that school. So Daniel, well done. Your story is amazing. You got into the UK in 2004. In 2004, when you got into the UK,
yeah,
I know your
yeah, yeah,
experience. How you slept on the floor. You moved from house to house, but you had grit, you had passion. Then you made some money. Now came to Nigeria, invested in oil and gas, and whoosh, money went.
crazy journey. It's
Crazy journey, man. You got a bit depressed. You were driving one. They said, let's just stop at a gas station. For those of you in Nigeria, it's petrol station. And I they call them a petrol station. So he stopped. And he was just, I think why he took a nap or something. And he got a
yeah,
divine idea.
yeah,
Somebody said money likes speed. When it comes, act on it. You
yes,
saw an advert or something to attend a property conference. It was your
yep,
last £70 or something. You
yep,
paid for it and you showed up. And like
yep.
I say, the rest is
It's history. Yep,
welcome to the show. Now, a lot of real estate people listen to me, Dr. Daniel. A lot of them in Nigeria listen to me. I'm
yep,
currently I'm currently the sales coach of like three real estate companies in Nigeria, they do billions of naira.
mm-hmm,
Some of them have signed me up to the end of this year, so I'm going to share this with them. They're going to listen to this. They will
yep,
sign up for some of your programs if they want to play the
yep,
game at a global level. So, guys, you
yep.
guys listen to that. Listen to this. Everything that this great man says. So just tell us a bit about you from your perspective. I've told the audience a bit about you from my own perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Paul, for having me on your podcast. I'm so super excited to be here to share my knowledge. And by the way, everything I'm going to be sharing are all my personal experiences, how I went from where I was to where I am now. So just a little bit of overground, just a little bit background over me. Sorry, I slip a tongue there. Is over the last 6 years I've been in the property industry, but I would say over the last 2.5 to 3 years, I can literally say I am successful in this industry. Because one of the things a lot of people do when they do get started in businesses and property or export, import, oil and gas, very quickly a lot of people, maybe they start making a couple of thousands, a couple of millions, whether you're in naira or whatever the case might be. People very quick to say, oh, I'm successful in a year or two, but not really looking at an actual business lifespan. It takes at least a minimum of 3 years to actually think you're getting it right in anything.
Mhm.
Then the fifth year. All right. The fifth year is quite crucial because if you can go past the fifth year, then it means you're doing something right and you need to continue in that same momentum to take you to your ninth year where you can actually start looking at things that you say, you know what, it might be almost impossible for you to really, go bankrupt in anything. And it took me a lot to understand what this is. So why have I obviously gone back to this before I get into the story? So my journey started, in 2016 after losing over 150 million, naira, equivalent at that time over 150,000 pounds as well. I mean, a little bit over 150,000 pounds as well. So I lost that money, and Nigeria wasn't at that time. where I think I had what it, the appropriate mechanism in place that, that I could have used to protect myself,
Yeah.
legals and otherwise. I lost that money, came back to the UK and suffered anxiety, depression. But one of the things that did happen to me in 2015 was I gave up the journey of entrepreneurship. I just basically gave up because it seems to be like all I've ever done in my life was to fight, 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 fight. I'm
Mm.
sure most of you might relate when you've been doing business all your life. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. And losing money after living in England since 2004, in 2015 in Nigeria, for me felt like entrepreneurship wasn't for me any longer. It
Mm-hmm.
felt like, you know, is my life all a battle? When actually will I be happy? When actually will I hit the point of fulfillment in my life? So that's the reason why I went back to driving Uber. That's the reason why I went into driving Uber, not back driving to Uber. That was the reason why I went to driving Uber. That was the reason why I ended up driving, as a delivery man, because my journey met its Waterloo. So it's just like, this is it now. I'm done.
Mm.
I'm done. I'm just done. And when that happened to me, I gave up everything. I just, started to give gratitude, be grateful for every single thing because now I'm dealing with anxiety, I'm dealing with depression, I'm sad at every given point in my life. I felt like a general who has gone to war and been defeated. So
Mm.
you name all the negativity that there is in this life. I started to live with it. I started to accept that part of my life and just say, this is
Mm.
it. But again, thank God to God being God. You see, there's a way God does things. Sometimes you see at the point in your life where you feel like it's all done,
Mm.
somehow divine intervention always come through. Some
Yeah.
say it's if it was meant to be, it will be. So after a while, I started picking up myself back, and I remember towards the end of 2016, I started picking up my momentum, and I obviously told this story in my book where I was driving back after dropping someone back, in a train, so in a airport, Stansted Airport to be precise, and I really felt like because I was driving over 18 hours a day, at least 18 hours a day. So there was only 24 hours in a day. So if I was driving
Mm.
up to 18 hours a day, it means that
That was very
I barely
excruciating.
slept.
Mm.
Because as a businessman at that time who was doing oil and gas, I had built a certain lifestyle for myself. I had a mortgage. I've got my wife in the UK. I've got two lovely children. You know, there are certain things that still have to be provided for these
Mm.
people. So I was really driving hard to just get by. It was a choice that I made because I'm an extremist in everything that I do. I always go in the extreme. So I
Mm.
don't just do things for the sake of doing that. I
Yeah.
go in depth, and
Mm.
that was my journey there. So and just like what you said, opening this story, you know, again I felt tired. I took a nap, and from that nap, looked at my phone. I was about to pick up my next Uber ride, but then I remember I just had a nap and I saw myself doing property in that nap. Maybe it was just me thinking, but I do
Mm.
definitely know it's the voice of God.
Yes, it is.
I
It
do
is.
definitely know it's the voice of God because I'm a
It is.
Christian. And it
Yes.
was God. Indeed, it was God. Looking at everything now, I give all the glory to God Almighty because it was a clear revelation. When that happened, after that little dream, I woke up and I said, okay, let me pick up the next ride from that station to town. And opened up my phone. For some reason, instead of going to Uber app, I ended up going to Facebook. An ad popped up in my face, get started in property with little or no money. I clicked in. It was a networking event for 2 hours somewhere in central London. It wasn't free. It was £70. It was the actual last £70 that I had to fuel my car for my next Uber drive, for the next week. Because normally Uber pays us on a Friday, but this happened on a Wednesday. So I needed to top up my car for the next week ahead before Uber pays me. It was the only last money I have. But again, like I said, I'm an extremist. I took a chance, a gamble, spend that last £70 on the last amount that I had on my credit card balance of less than £150. And that is what gave birth to what I have ultimately become today. And when I started property investing, neither did I think I was going to speak about it. Neither did I think I was going to become a public speaker, a keynote, an author, podcaster, all the different titles that I have today. Never did I imagine in my life that in a foreign country that I could actually become the person that I've become today. So for me, it is not just what I've become. I think it's been predestined by God Almighty that actually I would be able to lead a new movement in the real estate industry that will encourage those who are immigrating from Nigeria to this country, those who are already here to creating wealth, those who are here not knowing what to do and how to get into the property industry, for me to be one of the new role models that they can, reach out to, and eventually these obviously give birth to multiple things that I do now. So I think I'll park here for now as we go into this conversation as you unravel different questions. So that's just me trying to wrap up, just closing in what I do, how I started, just to kind of introduce myself.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, I am pretty interested about something because you know that you said that you had lived in a particular property for 13 years.
Mm,
13 years. You had to convince your wife about doing business with that property. In NLP, we call that the ecology of a goal. So you had
mm,
to make peace with the people around you because they have to journey with you.
yeah,
Because a lot of people are in that state right now. There are certain decisions and choices they need to take. What's holding them back is their lack of proficiency to communicate that to their wife, their
yeah,
parents, or something. And because they can't do that, they are stuck. How
yeah.
did you have that kind of conversation? I mean, when you got home, why did you tell your wife that, look, the last 70 pounds, what I used to pay for this class? So, how did you have those kinds of tough conversations? Because there's somebody listening to me right now. They want to get into the property game. They want Dr. Daniel to coach them. They have the 14 pounds, 14,000 pounds. They don't know
Yeah.
how to tell their wife, look, I want to pay Dr. Daniel 14,000 pounds for him to coach me. How did you have that conversation?
You see, there's something I've come to realize in life that when the time is right.
Hmm.
When the time is wrong, is wrong.
Hmm.
I think it's also quite important to understand yourself as a being. What
Hmm.
drives you? What inspires you? What motivates you? Can you use your pain to drive your success? So
Hmm.
for me, when I lost everything in 2015, I think telling myself that I've lost, I've won, I've lost the battle. You know, I'm never going to be successful again. In as much as I did try to settle with it, I did try to settle with it. But I think what started to happen to me was that once in a while, knowing that, okay, eh, the question was, so this in Nigerian language, see myself now so it can't be. Hi,
Hmm.
God, Daniel Moses, is this you?
Hmm.
I think that kept playing in my head as well
That
as
was
because
in your head.
it kept playing. So now you can be this. Now you can be, in my local dialect. Now you can be this. I think it kept playing. It kept playing as well. So for me, with the moment I saw that ad, I said, well, it cannot be a coincidence that I just been to a dream. This has
Hmm.
happened. And this is why somehow also it's quite important to understand the spirit of discernment, right?
Very powerful.
So
Very,
for
very
me,
powerful.
discernment that okay, this is not just a coincidence. That I just it's like a movie.
Hmm.
I'm scrolling through my phone and I'm seeing property. Okay, it's 70 pounds. Even if hunger will come tomorrow, no problem.
Hmm.
After all, I've just lost over 150,000 pounds in
Come on,
Nigeria. I
man.
did not die.
Come on, man. Yeah. Hmm.
I did not die.
Hmm.
So if I did not die and today I'm an Uber driver and I just had a dream, this is something, there's something deeper than this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I think I've never actually analyzed that dream. And I will do today on this podcast because I want to relate back home because I know people back home will understand this. In that dream, not only was I being showed property that I could become a property investor, in that dream, I actually saw myself speaking to people about property in
Mm.
that dream. I did see myself talking to people, but when I woke up from that dream, I didn't know what I was talking to people. But
About.
today, looking backwards, I can interact and see that actually,
Connecting the dots.
me now speaking to people, I've spoken to audience of at least a minimum of 3,000 in a specific venue. And if I was to say over the last 2 years, I've been over the last coming to 3 years, I've been a speaker. I've actually spoken to at least over 10,000 people
Wow.
in person. Now, if I was to combine my entire social media, I've spoken to over 100,000 people.
Wow.
If I have a podcast as well. We have
Yeah.
over 10,000 downloads. So if I have now, maybe who knows, I might have even speaking to a million. I was granted an interview with Channels TV Nigeria. So
Yes.
a lot of people watched that as
Saw that.
well.
Saw that. Yeah.
So connecting all the dots today now show me that yes, it was a supernatural intervention. I'm not where I'm going yet. I'm not even halfway near. But this is one of the reasons why you see sometimes God speaks, all right, and we forget that it's actually God speaking and we're looking for the miracle when God has already shown you this is the action to take. It's
Yeah.
like God will say that Mr. Paul Foe, me and your path was meant to cross, but you chose not to make the connection. It's just like God will tell you that your path and my path is meant to cross, but I refuse to make a connection with you.
Mm.
But God made it very clear, and I kept popping in your face. I kept popping in your face. Was it that I needed coaching in sales, or you needed coaching in in property?
Mm.
But sometimes we start to criticize rather than to support and to look
Yeah.
out for where we want to go to.
Yeah.
So for me, I think I was able to desound. Now, once I was able to desound, instantly I clicked, I brought out my credit card, I registered for that event, and I went. Now, going to that property, I was the only man in that room that was black.
Can you imagine?
I got to the room, I was confused. Everything the speaker was saying, from rent to rent, buy, refurbish, refinance, all different types of property strategies that there is in the UK. I said, in my mind, there was a spirit telling me, "This, you have deceived yourself now. You have just come to waste money. What are
Mm.
you even doing here, by the way? Do you see anybody that look like you?" But something kept telling me, this is the reason why you are in this room. Nobody
Mm.
look like you. But this is why you are going to be the first that other people are going to see, and they're going to say, after all, he's doing it. So
Mm.
if I continue to go deeper into this, you can see that there's been more supernatural,
Yes. Very,
in
very.
what took place in my life. Now, eventually, after that £70 investment, I needed to invest more money.
Mm-hmm.
The next state of my investment was a couple of weeks after, maybe 3 months if I can remember now. I needed to invest another £3,500. I didn't have it, but I kept pushing. I kept pushing. Across my entire journey till today's date, if I have not invested in my property coachings, mentorship, seminars, I've invested at least over £150,000 in a space of 6 years.
Mm. Mm.
Over £150,000.
Yeah.
Now, ask me this question as an Uber driver: did I have £150,000?
No.
No. Till today, do I have £150,000 to blow on coaching and mentorship?
Mm.
No. Yes, I have multi-million pound property. I'm very asset rich. Okay. But one thing I've come to realize is that sometime in life, being an entrepreneur does not mean it has to be perfect. It means that you're looking for imperfection and making perfect.
Yeah.
You're looking for something that is broken so you can fix it.
Yeah.
The journey of entrepreneurship is not perfection. It's not that it's working. It's that you are making it work.
Mm. 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 Mm.
Does that make sense?
A
And
lot.
that is these are exactly how my journey continue to connect, it continue to connect, it continue to connect. Now, bringing it to the last question you asked,
Yeah.
did I just convert the house me and my wife bought in 2006?
It's an
All right,
HMO.
and so into an HMO? No, I did not just do
Sorry,
that.
Dr. Daniel, for the benefit of those listening to us outside the UK, what's an HMO?
Houses of multiple occupation.
So
All
break
right.
that. Someone might get a critical idea in Lagos right now because of that. Can you
So
share?
HMO exists everywhere, every single day in Nigeria. Face me, I face you is HMO.
Whoa. But we just call it a different name, a different
Face me,
label.
I face you. If you build face me, I face you, you have corridor. All right. You build a bungalow, you have
I
corridor.
mean,
Room
nice.
one. So room one, room two, room three, room four. Then
Mhm.
at the back of that house, you have a toilet, maybe usually pit toilet. Those
Yes.
days, those are the kind of house I grew up in.
Yes. Yes.
Those
Same.
days.
Same with
So
me.
you have one house where it's corridor, and it's just they just build it room one, room two, room three. Then at the back of the house there is corridor. So there is a pit toilet at the back, and
Mm.
also at the back there is a public shower room. So
Yes,
people carry their bucket and their water to go and shower at the
that's it.
back,
That's it. That's
and
it.
then they obviously use their obviously. I don't, people still live like that in Nigeria, definitely,
Of course, they
but
do.
obviously it's gradually changing now. It's
Yes.
evolving, and that's HMO in England, whereby multiple people live like that.
Okay,
But
fantastic.
in the country here, it is regulated. You cannot have 12 people, 15 people, 100 people without a license. Because here, the way we build our houses, no hazard is no property is hazard free. So almost all property has hazards. When multiple people are living together, there could be things like fire. There could
Yes.
be things like disaster. There could
Yes.
be different type of situation. So in England, the HMO license is implemented to regulate and limit hazards happening, people dying from a fault of the next person,
Yeah.
managing how we live together. So that's just an HMO. So in a nutshell, an HMO definition in the UK is where three or more people who are
Living.
unrelated are living together, the house becomes regulated.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's clear. So that for those of you who are listening to
Great.
that, some of you may get
So
a big idea of getting monthly rental income from that in Lagos. It's not very popular, but go ahead, sir. Yeah.
great. So before I actually converted the house I lived in, my wife and I bought that house in 2006. Before actually we did that, I started with something called rent to rent. So imagine now, right? I got the intervention, or the intervention in 2006. Then I started learning. I didn't really buy any property, neither did I control any property. I started learning. Imagine this is me, proper Niger boy.
Mm,
Before 2015, before 2015, I never had a white friend. I never had an Asian friend. The only community of people I mingled with were people from Edo State, people from Igbo, people from Yoruba, and we all live like in England, but we live like we're in Nigeria, and it's very common. You know, the restaurant you go to day in and day out is maybe Lolak in Peckham, and
mm,
that's the community. The only way you shop most times, maybe yeah, you shop one in the one in Tesco, but your hardcore food is Antiveros place.
mm,
All right, Antiveros place on Peckham High Street.
mm,
So you go there, you buy your food stop. Then if you need to eat in a restaurant, you go to Lolak, for example.
mm,
That was my typical life. So the only people that I knew was, just kind of that type of community. So I
mm,
never really had friends outside. Yes, my wife is from Uganda. She had her own friends as well. So the only people I could call friends, but I was also very timid when I was around my wife's friends because my wife is born bred. She's born raised here. All right, but even the way I speak, I wasn't like this. Like you can see, I'm trying to. Maybe some people tell me that your accent is a bit different now. I had to pay coaches to teach me to speak like this. So, cut long story short, my journey is quite deep, ladies and gentlemen. Like, I'm just trying to scratch the surface. I'm trying to, I'm trying to touch. I'm just trying to double in and out.
I like it. I'm really enjoying this narrative. It's very
Yeah,
powerful. There's a lot of lessons, a lot of layers in this story. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and when myself, when I started, I learned 2016. I was learning and learning and learning, but eventually in 2017, I then took a leap of faith. I started learning rent to rent. Then I also started learning something called property deal sourcing. So property deal sourcing is something like when in Nigeria now, in Nigeria you say you are an estate agent.
Hmm.
You find somebody who wants to buy a land.
Sell the
You
land.
find somebody that just came from London, they got
Mm,
some pounds. You
mm,
find somebody that just came from America, they got some pounds. Now you tell them, Sister Vero has one land to sell. The land is very good. In fact, my pops lives around the corner. So now you've connected brother Paul, who just came from London to Sister Vero.
mm,
At the end of the day, you charge Sister Vero, or in between, you got 5% or 10%.
mm.
Then you two now go to you settle your money layers and all this. You are the one that is settling everything. So in the UK, it's called property sourcing. Plus, also you can also add a spin to it and also say you are a lettings agent. But the lettings agent in the UK only finds you a property. that you like, you buy it, and that's it. Case closed. The property sourcer does not, the lettings agent does not help you build the house. He does not help you move in. He doesn't help you do, whether there's, the government will approve the land or not. But in Nigeria, you can actually get a foreman, the same guy can be a foreman, help you manage the project. So
Yeah.
that's property sourcing here in the UK.
Mm.
So I learned this. Then the rent to rent element of it is that in Nigeria as well, I'm trying to relate both countries so that
Yes, I
it's
like that.
easier
I
for
like
the
that.
audience to kind of digest. So the rent to rent part is the caretaker. The caretaker who helps the landlord manage his property and go and collect the rent, he
Mm.
will take a certain percentage, give the landlord the rest. So
Yeah.
the rent to rent is like a caretaker. It doesn't own the house, but he's getting paid for helping the landlord go making sure that Uncle Paul, Auntie Jeanette pays their rent
Mm.
month in, month out. So, and this is just exactly the rent to rent situation. But the only difference here with the rent to rent situation was you offer the landlord a guaranteed rent. So, month in, month out, the landlord gets £1,000. With the landlord's permission, you are able to charge £2,000. Now, the cost of repairing the property, the cost of marketing the property, the cost of traveling in and paying water bill, gas bill, let's just say all of that is £500. So the landlord is clearly aware that you know you are going to rent the property and give him £1,000. Whatever you make is not my business, as long
Yeah.
as you pay me rent month in, month out.
Mm.
So this were how I got started in property. I never knew it. When I first said it, I said, "Oh, this is this legal? I don't want to get to. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
want to be sent to jail." But it was properly legit. It was legal. All right, but you just have to do it compliantly. Although a lot of people come from Nigeria, they do this illegally sometimes because they didn't know. Because Nigerians were kind of smart in a way
Mm.
where we find opportunity and stuff. So even I started speaking to a lot of people who were doing it, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm already doing it, but you was not doing it with the consent of the landlord. It has to be legit.
Mm.
Because when you sign a contract in the UK, you have to sign a contract called a short tenancy. And on that a short tenancy with rent to rent, you're not permitted to rent that house out again or even get somebody to come and leave you and share the rent
Exactly.
without the landlord knowing.
Yeah.
So that is the rent to rent side there. But doing it correctly within the actual legal frameworks is what makes it a business.
Yes.
So when I then find out all these different things, like, wow, okay, I'm going to do it. So I,
Mm.
I invested in a coach. I invested in a mentor. At this time, £70. From £70, I spent £3,000. Started going to different seminars. Again, with my Uber taxi money, I was funding it. I dropped a few, things I was also doing. Told my wife, okay, we can't do this anymore. Let me just focus on this.
Mm.
But this time, my wife was like, okay, but this was you that gave up a couple of months back. You said you were not going to do business again. You're running your way into a business. I went through that challenge in itself. So by the end of 2017, I registered my company. I sold 3 to 4 deals, if I'm right. Yes, if I'm right on top of my head, I think 2 to 3, 4 deals, if I'm right. Now I generated an income of you know, over £8,000 within the first 6 months. I generated income of about £6,000 or 4,000 pounds or so. By the before the end of that year, I think I've generated almost £8,000. I registered the company, and by January 2008 or so, I secured, you know, a rent to rent property. Now I'm acting as the landlord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
paying the landlord rent. My
Mm-hmm.
first property was giving me over £700. So this thing, it's like, wow, it works. So I put it in effort. I said, okay, if I can get one, why don't I get 20? So I went, by the end of the year 2018, I got 20 of them.
So you were
I
marketing
kept,
yourself to the landlords.
yes, with landlords, with agents. But by the end of 2018, I got 20 property transactions. I sold 12. I kept 8. That kept giving me £800, £700. I kept 8 of them. And I sold 12 of them. That generated me like instant cash flow. So the moment I introduce someone else to it, I give them the deal. They pay me £3,000 or £4,000 or £2,500. It was me that was controlling the price, whatever I like, because
Mm.
I've already learned it. Now, obviously, you needed compliance. You needed to become a member of property redress scheme. You needed to become a member of property ombudsman. You need to have indemnity insurance. You need to have an accountant to work with you so that you can calculate your accounts correctly. I had all these different things in place for the rent to rent business,
Mm.
anti money laundering license, and all of the others for the deal sourcing business, bringing all these things together. And plus, the clients I was selling to became friends. So somebody that I sold the first deal for, I'll tell them I have another deal. So by the end of 2018, I was able to quit my job as an Uber driver. I had
Wow.
done over 20 property transactions. By the end of 2018, sorry, I had a business that done over £80,000 in turnover.
Whoa. Whoa.
And I'm like, okay, what next? I cannot keep being a caretaker. In 2019, I have to go and buy houses.
Mm.
I have to own houses.
Mm.
What did I do again? I started looking for somebody to teach me because the first coach who taught me how to do all of this wasn't doing that because it's like property was just expand different things were just expanding in my face, but I
Mm.
needed a starting point. So now January came, I was documenting everything I'm doing on social media. People started reaching out to me, come and share your story on our platforms, come and tell people, what you're doing, and that gave birth to my speaking career.
Mm.
I remember the first time somebody asked me to come and speak about what I do. I'm like, I did not read this in University of Benin that
Mm.
I went
Mm.
to.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
At that time, my accent wasn't this. If you watch some of my content, people say to me, "We can't really determine where you're from, whether you're Nigerian, whether you're Ghanaian, but we know you're African." But
Mm.
I'm not saying I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet that my accent is very clean. But people say your accent is so good now that we don't really know where you're from. Even my old friends tell me, Daniel, you're two different people. My pronunciation. My old friends tell me that, Daniel, you're two different people.
That's a compliment, man.
You're two different people. The Daniel we knew, many years back, and the Daniel we knew now is two different people. You
Mm.
know, because I had to invest. I realized like self education is what changes people's life.
You can say that again, man.
Self education, yeah, you can also you obviously academical education is also great, but
Plays a
self
part.
education is what creates wealth. Academical education creates a part of knowledge, but creativity brings ultimate wealth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and that is just that little journey there. So I transitioned from the rent to renter, deal
Buying
sourcer,
property.
and then that's where the story of the house I lived with my wife and kids for 13 years came into place. So now my business is doing well. I'm doing the turnover of £80,000. I went home to my wife. I said, my sweetheart, we've been through a lot, and I think property is not volatile. You've seen me from nothing do what I'm doing. I think we've got some equity in this house. I don't think we need to learn. We need to sell this house or anything, but we have some equity on this house. What if this is what one of my mentors taught me how to do?
Mm.
Did you know that the house that we live in, this house now, we can call it an investment now because we've owned it for over 13 years. Because when we bought that house, 13 years at that time, we bought it for £247,000. At this time now, it's worth £430,000. Over 10 years, it's doubled in value. So
Mm.
we can say it's an investment. And I said, did you know that going forward, somehow it's a liability? She's like, tell me about it. So I broke it down. I said, what if we find a way to turn this house that is £430,000 worth into 700, into maybe £800,000. And this house now gives us maybe £3,000,
Every
maybe
month.
£4,000, maybe even £5,000 every month. How does that sound? And with this property giving us this money, we can go and rent somewhere, maybe £2,500, maybe £2,000. So this house pays the rent, but however, we're able to use this house at every given point in time as a leverage, security to get in more funds.
Mm.
So what was I doing here? I was eliminating and deconstructing what we're told to do on where you live.
Mm.
Especially in Nigeria, when you start making money, the first thing that comes to our mind is
Buy a house.
own where you live, buy
House.
your house, buy your house.
I'm moving.
Whereas you should have been buying houses that is investment that is giving you cash flow. So, which in my own words, I call it buying cash flow. So, the buying cash flow means that you're buying asset that produces you cash flow month in, month out.
Hmm.
It's like buying a car that you're driving that is costing you money every now and then, rather than you buying a car that moves people from A, B to Z, and that car gives you money.
Hmm.
So my mentality started to change with the use of mentors, with the coach, with the coaches I had, with knowing what is good debt, what is bad debt, what is good debt, bad debt and good debt. Good debt means something that brings money back and pays for itself. Bad debt means something that takes money out of your pocket and never bring money back in your pocket. Does that make sense?
A lot of sense. A ton of
So I
sense.
started to, I started to learn all these different things. So gradually I started to change. I was just changing. I was changing and changing. Cut long story short, I saw the ideas from the beginning of the year 2019. By June, my wife agreed. 6 months later, she said, okay, but just don't make sure this fails.
Hmm.
Like every other thing else that you've done that
Hmm.
has always been very challenging. I said, I pray to God, I hope it wouldn't. So she agreed with me. We moved out of that house. God willing and God helping us, we moved into another house that was for sale, that was for rent, and I used something called the delay completion. I bought that house. Delay completion means buy now, pay later.
Hmm.
So this property was on the market for sale, it wasn't selling. It was in the market for rent, it wasn't renting. It was going through a repossession, and I managed to convince the landlord to come in, solve her problem, and then move into that property. Then the landlord also said yes. So now we moved into a different house.
Hmm.
Then what did I do? I went out there, my social media and my networking, everything I could possibly do. Borrowed money from A, B, C, Z, you name it. Anybody that was borrowable, I borrowed money from them. I went back, leveraged on my business that I built. I was doing over 80,000 pounds. I leveraged on some loans. Cut long story short, I raised over 150,000 pounds. I found a builder, negotiated with them to pay them half of the money for the refurb,
Hmm.
and they agreed as well. Again, this is just God making way.
Yeah.
All right, and I give all the glory. The guy accepted. He knew me from nowhere, but he saw my social media at that time that I was doing something. People like what I'm saying. People like what I'm doing. So the guy said, "Well, the guy done his due diligence." So very fast, long story. We moved into that house. We got all the necessary approvals. I started to convert that house from a 3-bed family house into a 6-bedroom with a living room, all ensuite HMO, house of multiple occupation. When that property was finished, remember the property was worth about 430. I
Hmm.
spent about 150,000 pounds on it. That same property got revalued at 700,000 pounds. And I
Whoa.
used something called refinancing. The bank gave me 300,000 pounds back,
Hmm.
paid off all my debts, went back to the same people that gave me money. I said, can we go again, please? Because I borrowed, because I paid back. They said yes. And 2020, during lockdown, against all the odds, one of the most difficult time on the
Hmm.
planet Earth, you know, and that's how, the whole narrative changed to one of the most disruptive property entrepreneur, disruptive property coach, wealth success and strategist mentor that I've become today. So I'll probably leave it there at the moment before going to the more interesting part.
This is very, very fascinating, Daniel. Wow. You have guts. You are the definition of an entrepreneur that they see things that others don't see yet. So they look at the upside and the downside and they say to themselves asymmetrically, what am I gonna do? Man, I failed before. This is powerful. So that a lot of things that some of the people that maybe listen to this may be interested in, like they look at you, they look at your social media, they look at the success. What do you have like a morning routine? How do you start your day to set you in the right mindset? Because everything is mindset. I listened to your podcast today. I listened to a guy that you interviewed on mindset. I think
Yeah.
that's your last finished the interview. I finished the one that Channels Television interviewed you on. So there's a lot of mindset shift that has happened to you. I have a background in that. I'm certified in NLP, neuro linguistic programs. I see a lot of these mindset loops going on with you, right? So, how do you start your day as a
Good,
property mogul, wealth coach? How do you put yourself in that fire mindset?
good question. So the good question in here is that I actually did not know how to put these words together until I actually interviewed someone on my podcast. He says, not every storm comes to destroy. Most storm comes to build.
Mm, mm,
Now, before I actually heard this context, you know, I I personally, did not know how to actually put that word so that not every storm come to make, but they actually come to build. You see, your mindset is everything.
mhm,
One of the things I've come to learn in my life, which it means that if you're broke today, God wants you to learn a lesson if you
mm,
believe in God. If you believe in whatever you believe in, God wants you to learn from something. The reason why challenges, the end of challenges is death. When you die, that's the end of problems in your life.
mm, mm,
Problem is not every single problem you're going through in your life actually is there to make you a better person.
mm,
So you overcome one problem, what's next? You overcome this problem, what next? You overcome this
mm,
problem, what
mm,
next?
mm.
And that's why the Bible says, it says, though weeping may endure for the night,
With joy will come.
joy cometh in the morning. So how do I set myself on the joy of the morning, regardless of the challenges that I go through? Remember, right?
Mm,
I'm just an ordinary guy who's been on a journey.
mm,
I wasn't born into wealth. I wasn't born into success. I wasn't born into where there was so much money around. I was born into a family. My father, raised me till I was 10. My mother left my dad, you know, because my father had so many wives. She never remarried, and I respect my mom all the, to today. She's 80 plus, 80, 86 plus. She's from the age of 10. I never saw my mother with another man. And my brothers, traveled abroad and all of this. We had I had a kind of, no, people say, I wasn't born into silver spoon and all of that, but I do kind of have brothers who kind of inspired me. But what I'm trying to say here is that once I started to discover something that everybody has one head, everybody have same 24 hours in a day.
yeah.
Now, in order for you to become somebody that would make an impact. It's just simple actions that you take in the morning. So one
Mm,
of the things that I do in the morning is the first thing is pray. I wake up in the morning, I pray.
mm,
And after praying, whether it's 2 minutes, whether it's 1 minute, I don't have to shout, I just pray. So once I finish praying, normally go downstairs for a cup of coffee, depending on my mood. And then, have at least a liter of water. I mean, have at least half a liter of water, and just drink enough water. Then usually after that, wait for about 30 minutes or so, then go out for my morning, jog or my morning walk, whichever one I choose.
mm,
If the water is too heavy on that morning, the reason why I actually drink a lot of water, I'm going to say this and it's going to blow your mind. So I drink a lot of water in the morning. My belly is filled up, and I'm still able to run because you know what that does to me. The moment I come back, that water would have upset my stomach, and
yeah.
where I want to
Don't take it
sit.
down. Yeah.
When I come back, I'm sitting somewhere so that I can
Mm,
remove some things, right?
mm, 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 mm,
It
mm,
just
mm,
helps me. And I discovered is that it helped me to kind of loosen up my entire system every single morning. And that's part of my morning routine. Once I finish that, I basically delegate to my team. But before not having a team, I just plan about 5 tasks that I will do in a day.
mm,
I plan my five, tasks that I do in a day, and I reset my mindset.
mm,
I reset my mindset on not focusing on the negative. I literally try as much as possible not to see negative. I literally try every single day not to see problems. Yes, these things, you see, they say fear is if fear, the meaning of fear is, or the meaning of fear is unreal things appearing what? Real.
Yeah.
And the truth is, one of the biggest parts as an entrepreneur is every day you are fearful.
Every day, man. Say that again, man. Every day.
How are you going to pay the next bill? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? You're the only one going through this. So I try every single day not to focus on that. I try every single day not to focus on, the amount of money that I leverage to build my business.
Yeah.
But I try every day to focus on what I built.
Mm. Mm.
Because I learned that you can use debt to create wealth. Because that's even the countries. United Kingdom has debt. Nigeria is in debt. But
Yeah.
does that mean Nigeria is not functioning?
Yeah.
Debt is a good thing if used the appropriate way. So that's just how I've been able to model my mind. And finally, just in closing of this particular routine and mindset situation that you are, in order for you to really become successful, you have to be aware of self.
Self-awareness. That's
You
where
have
change starts from.
it all begins from within you, and that's
Mm.
why the Bible tells you that he that dwells in you
It's
is
greater
greater
than
and
he that's in
mightier
the
than
world.
he that dwells in
Mm.
the world. So these are things that I started to learn. So discovering myself every single day, because every single day you have two voices that speaks to you. You have the
Come
voice
on,
of
man.
God, and you have the voice of God, and you have the voice of the devil. You have the voice to make, you have the voice to destroy. Choices of which one you listen to is up to you.
Mm. Wow. Mr. Daniel. What book or what podcast have you recommended to people the most?
The first thing is I recommend my own podcast.
Great. No, it's a great podcast. I mean, it's a
So
great podcast. I
anyone,
listen to episodes. Fantastic. Yeah.
for everyone that wants to listen, for everyone that wants to transform their mind, I think one of the easiest way to learn these days is to learn through storytelling.
Yeah.
Listen to other people's story. People
Yeah.
listen to other people's story if you really want to grow because it's not friction. They're sharing you exactly how they got
Yeah.
from where they were to where they are.
Yes. Which you
And
have
then
graciously done today. It's powerful.
you relate.
Mm.
You relate. Have you ever listened to someone and say, actually, that person's talking to me?
Yes. A lot of times.
Have you
A
ever been
lot
to
of
a church
times.
and the pastor is praying and talking sometimes and say, that sermon was for me?
Yes. A lot of times.
Have you ever been in a classroom where they're teaching one plus one equals two, two equals over this or that, and you're like, you're bored?
But stories resonate with us a lot. Yeah.
So, yes, a lot of people read books, don't relate to the book.
But
So I
stories.
think relate to the story in the book and see yourself in it. So for me, first of all, anybody that wants to kind of transition their mindset is go to Wealth and Business podcast. I have
Yes,
interviewed.
I'm gonna ship put a link in the show notes for the podcast. But apart
Yeah,
from your podcast or apart from your
yeah.
book, what other book?
Absolutely. I was coming to that. So I want to obviously, it's very important. Promote self first.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I also wrote a book called The Rent to Rent Made Easy. The first two chapters, or if I'm right, the very first chapter, number one, focus on the mindset for wealth creation, or
Mhm.
rather the mindset for success. I call that chapter. So, chapter number one talks about all things mindset, where I share a little bit of my journey. I'm actually writing my second book, which is almost done. It's called The Act of Success, which is going to be out, God willing, before the end of the year. And it's going to be big on, it's all big about mindset. So I've been promoted my own books and my own podcast. One of the book that actually transitioned or transformed my mind, in terms of mindset,
Mhm.
is a book called, a book called, the Billionaire Mindset.
The billionaire mindset.
Yeah, I can't remember the actual author now. And another book as well I will again recommend is again in between his business book, his mindset, his sales, and his everything in between.
Yeah.
The Ten Rule by Grant Cardone.
Oh, Tenek, that's a very good book.
The
Very
Ten
good.
Rule,
Very good
and
book.
it's both on podcast, audiobook, and also hard paper book as
Very
well.
good book. Yeah.
These are books that also helped me. And but one of also the greatest book I've also read that has helped me is Key Person of Influence by Daniel Presley.
Yes.
Again, that has also helped me in terms of
Building your
my
personal brand. Yeah.
personality, building myself, discovering a few things that I didn't understand, what is functional and non-functional about. being a successful business entrepreneur, that also helped me. And I can go on and on. A lot of people say Think and Grow Rich. I have also read it, but yeah, Think and Grow Rich just taught me about money and taught me about leverage and just taught me about good debt and bad debt and obviously building generational wealth. So I can go on and on. So many books.
Wow, this has been a very, very fascinating conversation. Very, very fascinating. Thank you for permitting this interview to happen. And I also thank myself for asking, because some people they admire somebody, instead of them to ask the person, they'll just have a narrative in their head that this person a big man, you're not gonna answer me. I send it out to a lot of people like this because I have a sales mindset. It's embedded in my soul. I know that what's the worst he will tell me no.
Yep.
I was in Dubai in March to do a sales training for a company, and while I was going, there's this multi-millionaire in Dubai. So I want to interview him for my podcast. I sent him a DM. He said something very powerful. He said, Paul, I usually don't check my DMs. But for some reason, I checked my DM and I saw your request. So just
Wow.
ask. Just
Wow.
ask.
Yeah. The Bible says, no. The Bible says, ask, he shall find. Knock,
Yes.
it
Just
shall be
knock.
open.
So I asked. And yeah, I'm interviewing the great Daniel Moses. Daniel Moses, if there's someone that you think that Paul you need to get on your podcast, who would that person be?
Honestly, I would, I can hook you up to interview Dr. Stephen Akintayo tomorrow.
The thing is tomorrow your oh, I know Dr. Stephen Akinta. I know him. I know
Yeah,
Dr.
I can get to interview him tomorrow because we're hosting an event together in London, and it'll be a great time for you to have him on your platform as well. And I can interview. I can basically give you I can definitely 100% introduce you to a few of my connects and my network to come and give you a lot of value on your podcast. I can get you to interview my great friend and my brother Emmanuel Sukwo and so many other people here in the UK. Absolutely, I can make that happen.
Thank you very much. I'll be very, very happy for that. Thank you so much. This has been a fascinating conversation. Where can people read more about your stuff? Obviously, your podcast is going to be on the show notes. Your Instagram and where else do you want to drive people to and all that? Where's your book?
Firstly, I would probably say for anyone that really want to know about me, what I do, I'm a property coach. I'm a success coach, wealth strategist, a property investor, podcaster. So if you really want to know, go on to www.propertyweed, that's we.co.uk. So that's the wealth website, the property wealth education website. And that will connect you to all my handles, everything I've done. So, and you can also, that will lead you to into all my social media handles as well.
All right. Thank you very, 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 very much. This has been a fascinating conversation and God bless you.
Thank you so
More
much.
wins, more successes, more territories.
Thank you so much.
God bless you, sir.
Thank you very
Wow.
much.
We're recording.